1980, electronic stimulation of the brain has been secretly used to control people targeted without their knowledge or consent. An international human rights agreement forbids non-consensual manipulation of human beings, even in prisons, not to speak of civilian populations. In addition to electronic mind control, chemical methods have also been developed. Mind-altering drugs and different smelling gases affecting brain function negatively can be injected into air ducts or water pipes. Bacteria and viruses have also been tested this way in several countries. Today's super technology connecting our brain functions via microchips, or even without them according to the latest technology, to computers by satellites in the United States or Israel poses the gravest threat to humanity. The latest supercomputers are powerful enough to monitor the whole world's population. What will happen when people are tempted by false premises to allow microchips into their bodies? One lure will be a microchip identity card. Compulsory legislation has even been secretly proposed in the United States to criminalize removal of an ID implant. Are we ready for the robotization of mankind and the total elimination of privacy, including freedom of thought? How many of us would want to cede our entire life, including our most secret thoughts, to Big Brother? Yet, the technology exists to create a totalitarian New World Order. Covert neurological communication systems are in place to counteract independent thinking and to control social and political activity on behalf of self-serving private and military interest. It is now known that the United States Air Force uses aerial mind control broadcast against civilian populations as well as enemy troops. Some of these actions against civilians are done with the intent of influencing public opinion and the outcome of elections. The U.S. military is aware that certain actions or procedures may not be acceptable to the American, that the mind-controlling technology is classified under non-lethal weapons. A 1998 news item states that the U.S. Air Force General John Jumper predicts that the military will have the tools to make potential enemies see, hear, and believe things that do not exist, and that the same idea was contained in a 15-volume study by the United States Air Force Scientific Advisory Board issued in 1996 on how to maintain U.S. air and space superiority on the battlefields of the 21st century. In military speak, a prediction means don't be surprised when you find out we've already got this, but it's classified and we can't admit to it just yet. Now notice that General Jumper predicts that mind control technology will be used against potential enemies. The military and government agencies may apply this term to any group or individual that they perceive as a threat to their own interest. Potential enemies may be countercultural individuals, those of opposing political viewpoints, economic or financial competitors, biological undesirables. It's part of the military agenda to identify potential threats so as to be prepared to meet them. Experience has shown that the U.S. government, the CIA and FBI for example, has moved against these people or groups, slandering, harassing, even killing them without adequate cause or legal sanction. A weapon that can be used in secret lends itself to abuse by unethical individuals in positions of power. The military and secret services have shown themselves often to be lacking in ethical constraints. After all, the job of the military is war. It is killing people. And so just how this is accomplished may be considered irrelevant. The lone gunmen that we hear about in assassinations, assassination attempts, school shootings, etc., are mind control individuals who have been programmed to carry out these missions. Ted Bundy, the son of Sam serial killer David Berkowitz, Lee Harvey Oswald, Timothy McVeigh, the Columbine shooters, Sirhan, and others were mind-controlled individuals who were programmed to perform these killings. Tens of thousands of young teenage boys were kidnapped and forced into a mind control training program called the Montauk Project starting around 1976. There were at least 250,000 mind-controlled Montauk boys produced at 25 different facilities similar to the underground base at Montauk, Long Island. Many of these boys were to become sleepers, programmed to go into action at a later date when properly triggered to engage in some sort of destructive or disruptive conduct. Other Montauk boys were woven into the fabric of mainstream American life as journalists, radio and TV personalities, businessmen, lawyers, judges, prosecutors, maybe even presidents. The day is now approaching in which government mind control technologies will be directed at you, your neighbors, and your loved ones. Every single day, equipment is being erected and installed in this country with the hidden purpose of exerting mind control over the entire population. These mind control technologies have been in place for a long time. It's not an accident that the frequency band chosen for cell phone use just happens to match the second-order waves that Dr. Wilhelm Reich discovered in the late 1940s to affect thought transmission and allow the mind to be manipulated without the victim realizing it. The United States is not alone in the research and development of mind control technology. It's well known that the former Soviet Union had developed and implemented mind control devices that were equal and even more advanced than that developed by the United States. As early as 1975, the Soviet Union was beaming radio frequency signals towards North America. Ham operators were picking up the 10 Hz frequency, which they called woodpecker signals because of the tapping they heard from extremely low frequency waves. It was speculated that this ELF frequency could resonate the neurons in the human brain over great distances, resulting in mood changes in a large part of the population. In response to the Soviets' ELF experiments, the United States developed its own high-frequency, active auroral research program, known as HAARP. Located in Alaska, HAARP is a high-powered radio transmission research facility jointly operated by the U.S. Navy, Air Force, and several universities. This facility is able to send very low frequency and extra low frequency waves at energy levels sufficient to affect entire regional populations. What other objective can there be but to control people with this device? What is even more ominous is that after reviewing HAARP documents and Air Force materials, the possibility is there for the HAARP transmitting system to be used inadvertently or intentionally to alter mental functions. A radio transmitter carrying a pulsed wave of 6 to 12 pulses per second, acting in resonance with the radio waves which serve as a carrier, could, if modulated in just the right way, disrupt minds and cause serious negative health effects on humans and animals. This technology is well within the capability of HAARP, and there is no doubt what they intend to use it for. Perhaps the most ominous aspect of the HAARP technology is the connecting of the military non-lethal research with civilian law enforcement agencies. This means that law enforcement can use this technology against the government's domestic adversaries. Now bear in mind that these weapons are invisible when used to alter thinking and behavior. Will HAARP and other mind control devices be used as the opening salvo to usher in the New World Order? Or are we already suffering attacks from this hell-spawn technology? The New World Order is accelerating their mind control operations to further their goal of creating a theocracy in the United States. This may seem odd at first, considering that the New World Order is atheistic by nature. However, the ruling elites are no fools. They know that one of the best ways to rule the masses is through restrictive religious laws. They also know that most political and religious leaders have no human morals. They crave power and material riches, and would do almost anything to achieve these goals, including sleeping with the devil. There are many people in the United States who would gladly torture and kill their neighbors and family if the government, using the veneer of God and religion, told them to do so. It's no mystery why the United States is undergoing a fundamentalist religious movement right now. It is being formulated and nurtured by the New World Order. Now, don't mistake the current religious movement with the church that most of us grew up with. The new religious movement has nothing to do with Christianity as we know it. Instead, the new religious movement is all about political power and the ultimate control of the population. Right now, there is a movement in Washington to push a law through Congress that would acknowledge God as the sovereign source of law, liberty, and government in the United States. What's more, it would forbid all legal challenges to government officials who use the power of the state to enforce their own view of God's sovereign authority. Any judge who dared even hear such a challenge could be removed from office. The Constitution Restoration Act of 2004 is no joke. It was introduced recently by some of the Bush regime's most powerful congressional parasites. If enacted, it will effectively transform the American Republic into a theocracy, where the arbitrary dictates of a higher power, as interpreted by a judge, policeman, bureaucrat, or president, can override the rule of law. The act, drafted by television evangelist and New World Order spokesperson Pat Robertson, is the fruit of decades of work by a group of extremists known broadly as dominionists. Their openly expressed aim is to establish biblical rule over every aspect of society, placing the state, the school, the arts and sciences, law, economics, and every other sphere under Christ the King. Or, as Attorney General John Ashcroft has often proclaimed, America has no king but Jesus. This, of course, is a joke, as the puppet masters behind Ashcroft don't believe in Jesus or Christianity. But Ashcroft doesn't know this or care. He is only interested in more money and power. According to dominionist literature, biblical rule means execution, preferably by stoning, of homosexuals and other sinners. Massive tax cuts for the rich, because wealth is a mark of God's favor, and elimination of government programs to alleviate poverty and sickness, this because God hates the poor, weak, and sick, and enslavement for debtors. No legal challenges to God's orders will be allowed, and because this order is divinely ordained, the elect can use any means necessary to establish it, including deception, subversion, even violence. As Pat Robertson himself tells the faithful, zealous men force their way in. Again, this is no tiny band of crackpots. The dominionists are bankrolled and directed by deep-pocketed, well-connected business moguls and political operatives who have engineered a takeover of the Republican Party and are now at the heart of the U.S. government. They've made common cause with the American Empire faction, Cheney, Rumsfeld, and the neoconservatives who seek full-spectrum dominance over the globe. The dominionists provide money and domestic political muscle for the dominators' imperial ambitions. In return, the dominators provide a practical vehicle, overwhelming military might and state power for making the dominionist dreams a reality. The dominionists also have strong backing on the Supreme Court. Justice Scalia, author of the unconstitutional ruling that gave Bush the presidency, declared in the theological journal First Things that the state derives its moral authority from God, not the consent of the governed. Scalia also wrote against the tendency of democracy to obscure the divine authority behind government. Meanwhile, the tools of dominion keep expanding. General Ralph Eberhart, head of America's first domestic military command,